Hi, I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region. And this is a quick video to teach you how to cast on, bind off, and fix mistakes with an I-cord tool. If you don't know what an I-cord tool is, an I-cord tool is made with 3 or 4, if you want, knitting machine needles. It has a handle, it's ergonomic, it's easy to use, and it creates I-cord, which is a cord that you can use as an edging on a shawl or scarf, as a tie on a bag or like a sweatshirt. I do a bind off with my I-cord tool. I love to make I-cord with beads on it to make necklaces or jewelry or lanyards to have your reading glasses with you. And I am very excited to teach you these tricks I've learned. If you want to know more about purchasing I-cord tools or making your own I-cord tool, I will link to a blog post below that will tell you all about that. That will have resources for finding materials, for purchasing from another maker. They are very fun. And I think once you get into playing one of these, the possibilities are endless. So let's jump right in and talk about that cast off. So this little I-cord tool that I'm working with today, I made with some knitting machine needles, and I'll give you a link to the YouTube live where I talk about all the materials that I purchased and how to make it. I actually make it with you all live in that YouTube video. So I'll link to that below. But I'm going to be working with this I-cord tool today, and I've just got some nice smooth hand-painted yarn with me right here because I think it's going to be really easy for you to see how I'm doing this cast on and then working the I-cord. So right now I'm going to be casting onto the tool, and you can see that I have the end of my yarn right here and the working yarn right here. So what I'm going to do is go over that last hook right there and then under the middle hook and then over the first hook. And I've just got my tail kind of hanging down right there. And then I'm going to take my working yarn, which is hanging to the back. And very importantly, before I go to do that, you can see the latches on this hook, how they kind of open and close right that on each hook. You want to make sure that those latches are all the way open when you go and wrap your yarn around. So you can see the yarn that I cast on is underneath the latch, and then the yarn that I just wrapped around is in front of the latch. And now what I'm going to do for this cast on is I'm going to manually close all of those latches, and I'm going to manually take my finger and jump that loop on the back needle over, and then I'm going to take this loop that I had going over the front needle and just lift it over, and then I'm going to slide all 3 of those stitches back. And now I'm set up and cast on. I've played with a few different cast ons because these are knitting machine needles. When I first was doing a cast on, I was doing what's called like a backwards loop or an E cast on. And I found that the start was really tight and hard to do. And this is the cast on if you don't pull tight. You'll see I was doing that very, very gently, that I find is really easy to start working with. So now my working yarn is always going to be coming off this last loop on the back hook, and I'm going to bring it underneath and then over those 3 hooks. And for this first few rows, these are the hardest rows, and I think it's where people get frustrated. You'll see that I'm kind of pulling down on the tail a little bit to get some tension, and I'm actually going to just go and slide all 3 of those stitches up and over for that first row, because I think it really helps you get going and have just a little bit of a base. And now I'm going to wrap the yarn around, and now that I have a base, I can pull down and kind of squeeze those needles together a little bit with my fingers if I need to, and then slide back beyond those hoops, those latches. And now I'm just going to keep going like this, wrapping the yarn, pulling it around, wrapping the yarn, pulling it around. You'll see sometimes if things feel a little tight, I'll squeeze those needles together. If you can get those loops a little bit looser as you get going, the need to squeeze becomes not as necessary because those loops are just a little bit bigger and it's easier for them to slide. I'm trying to go slow so that you can really see the mechanics of this so that you understand what's happening as I make this 3-stitch I-cord. So fast, definitely faster than knitting once you get into the flow of it. I would say that there is a learning curve, and if you just go grab some smooth, fun yarn and sit outside and play with it for a little while and maybe watch this a few times, all of a sudden this action will probably click for you. I found one thing, I know I do yoga a lot, and oftentimes my yoga teacher will be like, drop your shoulders, take a deep breath. So when I was first learning how to work with the I-cord tool, I was like so tense and I was holding it super duper tight and my shoulders were like touching my ears. So it really helps to relax. And then you can just get in and wrap the yarn and pull it through. And remember, as you pull back, you go beyond those latches. So the latches are open when you wrap the yarn around and pull it through. So I've kept doing this because I've been hoping that I would make a mistake and then I could teach you how to fix mistakes. And I think what I'm going to do is just wrap over 2 by mistake and then be like, oh my goodness, what just happened? I made a mistake. So this is what I do. This is how I found is the easiest way to fix mistakes. What I'll do is pinch underneath and I'll take my work off of the tool. And then I'll rip back until things are looking good. And when they're looking good, the last stitch worked with the yarn coming off it is the stitch that goes here. That goes onto this back hook right here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to grab this double pointed needle. I think it'll work better. I'm going to take a double pointed needle and I'm going to go into each of those stitches across, and I'm going to make sure that I don't split the stitches and that they're also all oriented on the needle correctly. And sometimes, so this one I can actually see that I've got the left leg to the front. So sometimes I'll grab a second knitting needle once I've got them on there and go back across and make sure all of those stitches are on there and oriented correctly, because then it is so easy to take your tool and go into that stitch with that hook, and then the middle stitch with the middle hook, and then the front stitch with the front hook going across. Of course, that one didn't go as well. But when I found that I was trying to fix mistakes by just taking the loops and trying to get them back onto the tool, what would happen was as I got the tool through one loop, it would collapse and then I wouldn't be able to get the next hook through. So having the knitting needle go through all of those stitches makes it so the loops can't collapse all the way because they collapse against the knitting needle and then stay there as a stitch. So if you do that when you make mistakes, and you will make them, that's going to be the way to fix yourself. So now I can just kind of continue on because I fixed that mistake. If another one happens, we'll fix one again, but you can go back and watch that. That fix went very well. So the concept is the same. The really big trick is to pinch underneath and then just rip back until you have that working yarn at the same point as the last, sorry, I'm losing my words, my last hook on the tool. So the next thing that y'all are going to ask me about is like, well, how do I finish? How do I bind off? And the way that I bind off that I find looks like the cast on the most is what I'll do is I'll take the loop on the last hook and I will move it to the middle hook and push it all the way to the back. So behind that latch right there. And then I'll just go and work these stitches together on the middle and the front hook and pull them through. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and take that front loop off. And sometimes you need to make it a little bit bigger to get it off so you don't lose it. And I take that loop and I put it onto the middle needle. You could probably also take the loop on the middle needle and bring it to the front needle. And then I wrap the yarn around and pull it through right there. And then I'm all finished off, and then I'll grab some sharp scissors and I will cut myself a tail and then pull that tail through. And now I have a little I-cord that I made with the cast on and then a bunch of rows and then the bind off. So interestingly, with any I-cord I make with the I-cord tool, I always end up blocking it because I find it looks much better and looses up and the stitches get all even and tidy after I block it. So I even end up blocking I-cord that I make with my tool. I definitely block the strands for the Quintus collar. I hope teaching you those few things made sense to you. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. Just leave a comment below. I would absolutely love if you would subscribe to my channel and like this video. Check out my other tutorials. I am always learning about things and I love sharing what I'm learning with you. If you want to make something with I-cord or the I-cord tool, I'll also link to a few of my patterns below and kits that you can use for playing with an I-cord tool. Thanks so much for watching. Happy knitting or happy I-cord tooling.